Well, greetings, vinyl community, and welcome to VC Friday. Today is June the 12th, and we wish a happy 85th birthday to the great Roy Harper, and remember the late John Wetton and Chick Corea on their birthday, and also say farewell to James Blood Ulmer, who passed a few days ago. And I want to start out the proceedings by saying hello to DJ Trish, who sent me a couple of her famous signature mix CDs. These are so much fun. One of these is titled Flashback Attack and is full of familiar old songs like Our House, Shorten and Bread, Classical Gas, Istanbul, Not Constantinople, the original by the Four Lads, Rock Island Line, all concluding with Baby Elephant Walk. There are two popcorn songs. We get Buttered Popcorn by the Supremes. I've never heard that. And we get Popcorn by Hot Butter, which certainly I've heard. And then she also sent Spring 2026, which is also full of great stuff. Spaceman by Harry Nilsson, Don't Kill the Whale by Yes. Just a lot of fun stuff to listen to, and I really appreciate Trish sharing that. And of course, no package from DJ Trish would be complete without a little selection of her famous stickers. So the first record I'll be showing, this is obligatory for a VC channel. I think 99% of the VC has already showed this, but just to get it out of the way, yes, I bought the new Paul McCartney album, and don't need to talk a lot about it because you've heard it all already, I'm sure. It's a great album, it really is. The thing to settle is what version to get. According to Discogs, there are 28 editions of the album. I'm surprised the figure is that low, actually. This is the version from Barnes & Noble, which is on gold vinyl. And it has, I think this is the standard version of the cover color. They have different colors. Some have blue lettering, some have green lettering there and there, but this is the red. You get the inner sleeve with all the nostalgic images from Paul's past. You get the standard lyric booklet, and the Barnes & Noble edition also comes with this photo print. And you see it's almost the same pose as the booklet, but Paul's ambidextrous. He can hold his chin with his left hand, or he can hold his chin with his right hand. What talent! Seriously, it is a fine album, and it is a relatively serious album. There's a distinct absence of fluff. We don't get a lot of nonsense songs. There's no, even on McCartney 3, which was rather similar in overall vibe to this album. We had Lavatory Lil. We don't get a temporary secretary or any of those goofy songs. The closest we get is Mountaintop, the real psychedelic song, and it works there because it's a song about getting stoned. It's a little funny because it actually mentions, he comes right out and mentions magic mushrooms. And I think the last time I showed a Beatles-related record was the George Harrison album that contains a song about shrooms. Those guys. But mostly it's a serious album with a lot of nostalgia to it, a lot of looking back to his past with his family, with the other Beatles. I really appreciate that there's a song about George Harrison on here, Down South, a song about their pre-Beatles trips, sort of hitchhiking down to the Smoke or to Wales or to wherever they were going. And, I think Paul's kind of said a lot about his relationship with John, and George kind of gets left out. And Ringo doesn't get left out because he's on the album. He does a vocal duet with Paul on Home to Us. And of course, Paul's voice is diminished, and he does a really good job on this album in working within his new limitations. It's really not an issue. It's not a matter of he can't sing anymore. He certainly can sing, but the voice has, aged. And it's clear, not just in his singing voice, but in his speaking voice. His speaking voice is shot. It's something you notice in his new interviews. He's been on television a lot. I saw him on the Stephen Colbert show, and I've got to say that his performance of Hello Goodbye, that literally brought tears to my eyes. That was just wonderful. But hearing him speak is, very clear. You can hear that the voice has deteriorated, and the album begins with spoken word, and it's clearly audible there. So he brings it right out front and then proceeds to deliver a lot of perfectly serviceable vocals throughout the album. So really pleased with this one. The usual line I'm hearing from everybody is, this is the best since Chaos and Creation in the Backyard. I actually never got into Chaos and Creation in the Backyard all that much. I own the album on CD, not on vinyl, and maybe the problem wouldn't be as bad on vinyl, but I found the album, because it's so compressed, it's got that Loudness Wars digital compression on it, that it's just too fatiguing to the ear to listen to that album all the way through. So for what I'm going to say is, this is I don't automatically buy every Paul McCartney album. I don't have them all. But for me, this is my favorite one, I think, since Flowers in the Dirt, which is a really, really good album that got a bit overshadowed or overlooked in McCartney's catalog.
Take me to the mountaintop, show me how the waters drop down into the valley stream below. I said life was bad, I'm a bad psychopath. I said lie. It was a good way to get to know you, as we were making our way down south. Oh yeah, first stop light to me.
And now for something completely different. This is The Ape of Naples by the British post-industrial and drone band Coil. Coil was basically the duo of former Throbbing Gristle and Psychic TV member Peter Christopherson with vocalist John Balance, plus various collaborators over the years. And the band formed in 1982 and ended in 2004 when John Balance died in a fall from a balcony at their home. And this is listed as the final studio album by Coil, released in 2005. It was originally titled Fire of the Mind, which is the title of the first track on here, but then revised to The Ape of Naples. Now, The Ape of Naples exists, and the Coil discography is so complex and convoluted and messy, but this album exists in even more variations than The Boys of Dungeon Lane. Discogs lists 38 releases of this album. This is the edition currently in print on Important Records, or ImpRec, and this is a double LP, three-sided, on this red splatter vinyl. It's opaque red within transparent red, so I'm not sure how well that's going to show. There we go. I think that's a good look at it. And this is the first disc with both sides music, and this is the second disc with the third side etched with some of the cover images by Ian Johnstone, and I don't think that's going to come through at all. It's pretty subtle to see. The album is beautifully packaged, with Ian Johnstone's art treated to some interesting spot varnishing, and the Band name and title are also printed only in spot varnish, so it's just clear and won't show up easily on the camera. I'm not sure if you can see the word coil there. Maybe that? I can't tell. What the packaging does not include is a track listing. There are lyrics to the songs that have lyrics. There are some pieces on here that are purely instrumental, so we get the titles of those, but not the full album. I think that's kind of a strange omission. I had to go online to get all the correct titles. And a particularly notable effect on this great, great album, the sounds on here, the creation, the creativity, the sonic exploring is really wonderful. This is, because it is a posthumous production, it consists partially of reworkings of previously released Coil tracks. It contains a lot of revisiting of unfinished work, and about half of it was recorded in New Orleans at Trent Reznor's Nothing Studios. And some of the pieces have vocals flown in from live performances, apparently including the final track, Going Up. Going Up has to be one of the greatest mismatches of musical mood in musical history, because it adapts the lyrics from the theme song of the silly, bawdy sitcom Are You Being Served, and applies them to something haunting, plaintive, and spiritual. From 1971 on the German Vergo label, the ensemble New Phonic Art from France. New Phonic Art is the Argentine-born keyboard player Carlos Roque Alsina on piano, organ, percussion, flute, and zurle, which is a Macedonian oboe. Everybody plays multiple instruments here. We'll just say the pianist, Carlos Roque Alsina, the percussionist, Jean-Pierre Drouet, the trombonist, Vinko Globokar, and the clarinetist, Michel Portal, who just passed away earlier this year and can be seen with a beautiful-looking contrabass clarinet on the cover there. This is free improvisation, strongly influenced by John Cage and Karl-Heinz Stockhausen, and indeed the musicians here have worked with Stockhausen, so that DNA is very strongly evident. Discogs says that the title of this album is Begegnung in Baden-Baden, Begegnung meaning meeting or encounter, so encounter in Baden-Baden. But it looks to me like the album is self-titled and the tracks are Begegnung in Baden-Baden versions 1, 2, and 3. Music of the Greek harpist Sissi Rada, also known as Sissi Makropoulou. And this is a 2024 release titled Demeter in Exone. And as the blurb on the back cover states, all music was improvised one afternoon in an apartment at the ancient demos of Exone in Athens, today called Vula. Demeter was the goddess of harvest and agriculture, and Exone is noted for its fishing, so maybe Sissi was hungry when she titled this album. On the cover we have her armpit. You notice it's very smooth. She keeps her pits clean. And there she is on the back with her harp, presumably in that Athenian apartment. So this is very ruminative, improvisational, thoughtful music, mostly just straight solo harp. There's some that sounds like there's some tinkering or preparation of the harp strings. And on the inner sleeve, there's some very subtle blue on blue imagery that I can't really make out what I'm looking at. It could be more armpits, I don't know. Picked up another release from the last record store day. Finally, this came into my local shop. Power to Consume, Volume 2. And this is, of course, music inspired by Lou Reed's Metal Machine music. The packaging has a theme of being identical to Volume 1, but in reverse. Let's get this right side up there. It's just all in negative, and they carry that through to the inner sleeves. The original had black inner sleeves. This one has white inner sleeves. The original had a booklet that was printed in black on white. This has a booklet that's printed in white on black. There's more star power in the lineup on Volume 2. We have Lydia Lunch, Blixa Bargeld from Einstürzenden Neubauten, Martin Rev, of course from Suicide, and Merzbau. Merzbau takes up most of side D with his track that is mastered to play from the inside out. So you have to put the needle down on the run-out groove, and the sidelong Merzbau piece plays, and then it leads into the locked groove piece, Untitled by Masana, which is a 4-second locked groove in the lip of the record. And there's also a locked groove on side B, and those are both salutes or nods to the locked groove on the fourth side of Metal Machine music. Also more female participation in this version. There's, besides Lydia Lunch, Moonbeam Terror and Pod Blots are the female contributors. We did have Pharmacon on the Volume 1 of representing the distaff side of noise music. And for that matter, Blixa Bargeld is referred to in the booklet with the pronoun they, so I'm guessing that they are identified as non-binary. The Martin Rev track, though, is my favorite piece on here. Rev Train. Great percussive work. It reminds me kind of Frank Zappa's synclavier compositions. So hats off to Martin Rev for this contribution.
Get your kiss and kill. Do you? You walking on the wild side. You walking on the wild side. Wanna take a walk on the wild side.
From 1968, the Holy Modal Rounders and the Moray Eels eat the Holy Modal Rounders. Well, this is their album, their fourth album from 1968, and their only album on the Elektra label, with a proper producer in Fraser Mohawk, and it didn't stop it from being incredibly weird and sloppy and noisy, crazed, psychedelic Yahoo folk music. It's hard to know where to begin with this album. It's so wacky and sloppy, as aforementioned. Peter Stamfel was not real fond of his partner Steve Weber's refusal to rehearse, so he split off from the Holy Modal Rounders. They're like Coil. They were basically two guys with various collaborators. But these two guys didn't get along, where the guys in Coil were actually personal partners as well as musical partners. Well, Peter Stamfel split off and formed his own, more disciplined group called the Moray Eels. But then they ended up getting a deal with Elektra Records, and it ended up having to be the Modal Rounders, so that's what we have here. I'm not sure if the Moray Eels really did eat the Holy Modal Rounders. It seems to me more like it was the other way around, but here we are. The opening song, Bird Song, is the most famous track on here. It was used in the Easy Rider soundtrack under the title If You Want to Be a Bird. Songwriting credit goes to Peter Stampfl's girlfriend, Antonia, just Antonia. And the music of the song is actually the 1956 country hit by Ray Price, You Done Me Wrong, with avian lyrics superimposed by Antonia.
You wanna be a bird, won't fly a little flying? No denying, it gets you high. Why be shackled to your feet when you got wings you haven't used yet? Don't wait for heaven, get out and fly. He's
We have a couple of patriotic interludes. Interlude 1 is the Stars and Stripes Forever done in this crazed tack piano slathered in psychedelic reverb effects. So it sounds like an LSD-drenched Nickelodeon. The final track, The Pledge, is America the Beautiful, with the whichever singer it is being unable to remember the pledge. Oddly, that's the only track on this whole album that's split off into a band. All the rest of it is just solid grooves on each side. And there are 13 tracks on here. Dame Fortune is one of the more listenable and least crazed, at least insane. And the wacky vocals on here, they remind me a lot of what the Residents would be doing years later. So Dame Fortune is as close to a straight folk song as we get here. That one got released as a promo-only single for radio play, backed with Bird Song, and of course it sank without trace.
Long your laughing fortune, chuck my chin, scratch my back, bite my neck, prick my ear, take up all the awful slack.
So that's VC Friday. Thanks very much for watching. Be well, be kind to your web-footed friends, and I'll talk with you again soon. Bye-bye for now.